Rich, and we're here with Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT. ACT is a couple things it stands for. Number one, it stands for ACT. If you are an executive, if you are a business leader, if you're a leader of any kind, obviously you understand you have to act. And so that's what we're going to talk about here is action. And the other thing about ACT is this, it is all about and cultural transformation. There is this real connection, Rich, would you agree, between leadership and culture? Healthy leadership, healthy culture. But when it's not healthy, there's something going on here. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Leadership is the beginning of a culture. It's a top-down exercise. So if you don't have strong leadership, the culture simply it struggles. It's not going to be there. The success of having a vibrant culture comes directly from an effective leader.
Yeah, and it can get rough. It can get really rough, right?
It can get really rough. You know, just on that point, recently I saw an ad looking for employees, and they showed their break room essentially with big, nice leather couches and a coffee bar and all this, and they're saying, you know, this is our culture. This is a great place to work. Well, it's a break room. That's not culture. It's a break room. And so people need to understand that. But the thing is there are a lot of people out there who see this as a phenomenal thing. But what happens when that breaks over and you're back in your cubicle, or you're back at your desk, or wherever you may be? Then what? Yeah. So absolutely, it's just for the folks listening, culture is not a break room.
Yeah, there's the culture, and then there's the real world, the real culture.
The real world. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So we got a question here today that we're going to tackle. What happens when leadership has a problem and doesn't know it? What's going on there?
A big problem. That's a big problem.
Big problem, yeah.
That's a real big problem. It's self-deception. It's deception as a leader. And it may not be self-deception. It may be that you simply do not know there's a problem.
Yeah, there's that aspect. Sometimes it can be just innocent. Yeah, I didn't realize it. I didn't know it. There's that kind of thing. Sometimes leaders aren't paying attention in terms of not really realizing the consequences of what's going on with their people, the things that they're making, the decisions they're making, the processes, the policies that they're implementing here. They're not really realizing it's actually making things harder for people. It's not making things better. Have you seen that?
Yeah, and I think that's putting on the blinders, because if everything's great for me, it's got to be great for everybody else. That's putting on those blinders where you don't want to see the problems that are going on in your organization. Because if they're good for you, well, obviously they have to be good for everybody else. And it's self-deception. It's a problem.
It is a big problem. And the thing about that is this, that I remember working in organizations where it seemed like they were deliberately putting the screws on. I mean, they really were. And they were saying, well, we're justifying it because the bottom line, for the sake of the organization. And they don't want to own it. They don't want to own the pain, the stress, all the stuff that goes on with their employees. They just want to look the other way and just say, just do it. It's going to be good for everybody. But it really isn't. Like you're saying, it's good for them, but it may not be good for other people.
Right. There's one organization recently we were looking at, and if you look at their employee reviews, everything below a leadership position, they were getting very poor reviews, 1-star reviews, but everything from a leadership above was getting 4- and 5-star reviews. So, and there's a definite disconnect. And you actually had an individual going in, and they called themselves an executive director, going in and saying on these 1-star reviews, this can't be real. This person obviously doesn't work for us or never has worked for us. It's self-deception, and a bigger problem, I think, that comes along with self-deception is self-betrayal. Self-betrayal. When you should make the right decision, or you have a feeling you should make the right decision, and you end up going a different direction. That's self-betrayal.
It's an interesting comment. This idea of, they're obviously not working for us. Well, who's us?
It's a good old boy.
Us at the top or us, everybody?
Yeah,
right.
It's us.
There's another problem that leaders have when it comes to this whole thing of cultural change and transformation is that sometimes they just don't know how to do it. And that's legit.
That's legit.
It's a real legit thing. And we know that from the statistics that we have, that when cultural transformation or cultural change is attempted, 75% of the time it fails. It does not go so good. So 1 out of 4 times it actually works, but for 3 out of 4 that are doing this, that it's not working. That's got to cost a lot of money, and they got to feel like, oh gosh, well, once it's I'm burned, now I'm not going to do it again. So they stay away from that stuff. So there's that point. We just don't know how to do it. We don't necessarily believe that it can be done.
Right. And I think that's a big problem with some of the younger leaders today that are getting into these positions of leadership and management that really have not been trained or taught how to become an effective leader. And so they get in these positions with an assumption of how it should be, which really can lead them down the wrong path very quickly. Here's a problem is every time a leader changes in an organization or comes into that organization, the vision, the culture, everything changes along with them. And so if they're a new leader in this organization, if they're not familiar with what the vision, the mission and the purpose of the organization is, and they're blind to that, not purposely, then the entire culture then changes. It changes in accordance with how this person views their leadership capacity.
That's an excellent. There's 2 things that you said that are really good there. One is oftentimes leadership is not very effective at communicating and transferring the ideas of the vision, the mission, the values of the company. They can talk about it, but just because you talk about it doesn't mean that you actually transferred those into the employees below. That's one thing. And so there's a lot of lost, might say, people going on. Well, what exactly are we doing? I think we know, but maybe we don't. The other thing is this: just because you are really good at doing something, that's probably why you were promoted. You're really good at doing A, B, C, or whatever it may be. Does not mean that you are good at leading and managing other people that are now going to be doing A, B, C, and D.
Right.
That's a whole different set of skills.
You make a good point there that there are so many talented people out there right now, with high degrees and, a lot of book smarts, if you will, but they don't have the heart or the skill set to step into a leadership position. And, talent's not the problem. There's a lot of talent out there. There's talent everywhere. There's another study that 38% of all executives now cite having an effective leadership pipeline as a real problem for the future. Well, and again, the talent isn't the problem there. It's people who have the heart, the desire, the real desire to step into this leadership position and lead, having the mindset of duty versus a mindset of what's in it for me.
Yeah. And so you bring up 2 things. I really like this a lot. One is the heart to serve. There are people that I really do have the heart to serve. There are all the other people you're talking about, like, what's in it for me, and I'm going to get mine.
Yeah.
That's not having the heart to serve the people that are working for you and working with you. That's one thing, right? The other part of it is the skills. You can have the heart and the desire to make things better, to help your people improve. You've got to also have the skills, and it's got to be more than I know about the skills. It's got to be one of those things. I know these skills so well, inside and out. They are just part of me. It's how I work with my heart to make the culture better for my people. That's a whole different level of leadership training and frankly, accountability.
Well, you know what? You bring up training. How does a leader get to that point? If they step into this position of leadership without those skills, or on the other hand, just don't want to know the truth. How do we fix that? How does a leader fix that?
Yeah. And there's another one. Here's another one you just brought up. They don't want to know the truth.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So you get, when I don't want to know the truth, or I don't want to know what the problem is, I don't want to have to deal with it, I'm just going to hope kind of goes away. And I know you got a great example of that with the engine light going on, right? It's really what it is. It's a passive aggressive behavior. I'm not going to do anything. I'm doing it by omission. I'm omitting action that I could do, and I'm just kind of hoping that it goes away. So, what's your analogy about the engine light going on and passive aggressive?
You see that engine light come on your dashboard, and you say to yourself, well, if I ignore it long enough, it'll probably go away. That problem will go away. Or even more so, you get out, disconnect the battery, turn that check engine light off, and the check engine light's gone now. It's not on there anymore, but you still got the problem. But as long as I don't see that check engine light, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about that. I'll drive down the road wherever I need to go, as long as you're not stuck out in the middle of the desert someplace when you break down. But which happens to leaders a lot of times. And here's the problem. This gets back to this self-betrayal. When you know you should do something, or have a feeling you should do something and make the wrong decision, or purposely make a decision that goes against those feelings, eventually the problem with self-betrayal is you start to believe that. You start to believe those issues of self-betrayal, and you take yourself down a road that everything's fine. And they're the lazy ones. They're the ones that have the problem. They're the ones that are creating all this turnover. They're the ones that aren't following through with the culture issues. Not me. I've got a tea time this afternoon, and I got these great perks. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is that whole thing of I'm right, and I don't want to be embarrassed, and I don't want to lose face, and we really don't want to get things too much going here, so we're just going to pass that by.
Right. So they justify that self-betrayal. They justify it.
Yeah. And there's the other kind of leadership that they're just defiant. They don't want to change. They're not going to change. They don't really care. I can hire anybody off the street to take your place, and I'm going to do it my way, and that's it. My way, the highway, that whole thing. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And that's a problem that if you're in that situation, you got to take a hard look at it. Why are you staying there?
Right. Well, I got a title. That's why. I've got a title. My name's on my office door. And
there's a lot to that, actually, Rich.
So that's why I'm staying, because my name's on the door.
That's right.
That's been my goal from day one, to get a title.
So,
and
here's the
thing. Leadership is a privilege. It's a privilege. Your actions, whether you're self-deceiving yourself or just ignoring it, could ultimately impact the entire career path of the people who work for you. You can alter their career path. And so it's that self-deception, really you owe it to yourself and to everybody around you to take a deep look, whether you realize you got the problem or you've got the problem. Because you owe it to everybody around you. Family, employees, friends, you owe it to yourself.
It's really true. So you're an employee or in some sort of leadership management position. You're dealing with some leaders that there's some issues here. There's some real problems. First off, you can't change them. They got to make the decision to change themselves, like you're saying.
Right.
You got to make that decision to do it. And so what you want to do is, how can I influence them? What are the things that I can do to see if these people are open to making things better for everybody? And then how do you know? How do you really know if they are that person that will do that? So we've got a list here of qualities or traits that you can start checking out. I'll tell you what, I'm going to read the even ones, and we'll go back and forth, and then you read the odd ones. So you start out with number 1, and I'll go to 2, and then we'll go 3, and that go back and forth.
All right. Well, one of the traits, the first one is he or she is an honest person. Integrity. Yeah, do they have that integrity? Are they? And that's not just being honest with people around you. That's being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Are you honest?
That's a big one. Second one is he or she is willing and open to discussing things, particularly challenging things or difficult things. They're not sloughing it off. They're not putting you off. They're not blowing you by, but they're really open to say, yeah, let's have a conversation about that.
Right. That vulnerability decision.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Number 3, he or she can be objective. That's huge in solving problems, and the lack of the deception's a problem. Deception in leadership's a problem. Do you have the ability to be objective about the issues at hand and being able to move forward that way?
Yeah. Facts are tough things. When you really get the kind of analysis that we provide for companies, it's database, it's facts, it's figures. Like that one company you were talking about that has some terrible reviews, they think they're doing great and they're in denial about it. That's not being objective. That's not being honest. That's being, looking out for themselves, and their employees are suffering in those other ways. But nonetheless, they think they're objective, but if they're denying the facts, if they're not looking at the data, then they're not honest and they're not objective. How about this one? He or she cares about the people in their company. That goes right to it. You can either be focused on yourself, your own self-interest, or how's it affecting everybody here? Are they open to discussing that?
Right. When people get to the point where they're just looking at the numbers on a spreadsheet, the revenue coming in, why should, these people, it doesn't matter. They're just someone working for me that's helping to build these numbers on my spreadsheet. This spreadsheet looks good. Good job, board of directors. Let's pat each other on the back for another great month. How did you get there? Was that you that got you there? Yeah, no, nope.
Okay. So number 5, that's yours.
Yeah, he or she wants the best for not only themselves, the individuals in the company. And that goes back to that mindset of duty versus a mindset of entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that, are you entitled because you've got that title? I don't know if that means, I don't know if they coincide, entitled, but it's the same thing. It's, you've got that great title, that CEO's on your door out there. You've got your own private parking place right up front, and we've seen this before. We've seen this where you walk into businesses and everything's about those leaders right up front. Or are you taking care of those folks that actually, help you, do that? Are you building a legacy for those people coming behind you?
Yeah, and with that what does the legacy look like? Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that the legacy looks like is that they are willing to grow the pie for everyone. And it's that idea here of think big, think different, just not big for yourselves, right, but think big and different for everybody. Grow the pie, share the pie.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's grow the pie for everyone. That alone will build your legacy. Grow that pie for everyone. And here's the thing: is they may not know your name. They might not even know who you are down the road, but the legacy that you create for building that success for everybody is going to be remembered. And it may not be by your name, but it's going to be appreciated nonetheless. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
So 7, he or she is willing to commit to making changes. That vulnerability decision and overcoming fear. Fear is huge. Fear is a big issue in avoiding that deception trap. Can you be honest with yourself? Can you get past that fear of the next step?
That's great. I love that, because it's this fear of change, the fear of the unknown, the fear of all these things that could go on. And the leader could look at, as leaders can look at that and just focus on that. And then you miss the opportunity. And here's the opportunity, because when you take your eye off the fear and look at things differently, and you go to work, you say, yeah, I'm going to do it, but it's not just, if it's just lip service, you're going to always blow up. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. But then nothing changes. It's when you say it, you mean it, and then you're going to do it. Once you say it and you go to work doing those things that you committed to do, that's where the change happens.
Right.
The change of fear going into the excitement about what it is that you're now creating with other people. And because you're working with other people and you're getting them to work with you, does your relationship change? You have a different feeling now about the people rather than just being, numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you absolutely change. Those relationships start to grow and you start to see people for who they are. The biggest waste in any organization is people's time, energy, and talents. Biggest waste. And once you realize that and start capitalizing on all this talent you have around you and letting it grow, that's where all this success comes from.
That's the excitement.
Yeah.
The excitement it's like success, brings more success.
Yeah.
Well, excitement will also bring more excitement. There's that sense of momentum in what it is that we're creating, what it is that we're doing with the company, how we're producing the products, how we're bringing about the services. I mean, that has a contagious effect to it, just as being fear is like, that's a contagion that's horrible. We want the excited stuff, not the negative, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Well, where we at? We're on 9?
9.
Okay.
Yep.
He or she believes in accountability for themselves as well as everyone else. Absolutely. Are you accountable for your decisions, or are you going to blame the next guy in the chain or someone further down the line that you have no idea who they are? You don't know.
That's right.
Maybe
That's
they're
exactly
that 1-star review and you're that 5-star review, and there's a reason why there's a 1-star review.
Maybe.
Blame them for your problem. Yeah.
Maybe not, though. I'm hoping that will go away. And finally, number 10, he or she will stick to it and make the changes and do the improvements, even when it gets hard, even when it gets tough, even if at times it doesn't seem that there's any way out of it.
Yeah.
You will stick with it. That leader will stick with you as you work it through, work it out, think big, think differently. And things start to really happen because we're all in it together. There are things that your people know that you don't, Mr. or Miss Leader.
Yeah.
And you need them to help you, and they can help you get through, just as you are willing to open the doors for them.
Yeah. You make a very good point. How many companies that January 1st comes around, everybody's back at work, after the first year, we got great plans for the year. These are our goals for the year. And the end of Q1 comes around and they've dropped by the wayside. Well, why is that? Well, because it got hard. Being a leader, a true leader, is having the ability to actualize that vision and those goals using the people around you. You can't do it by yourself. You can't build a railroad by yourself. You can't, build a highway by yourself. You can't do it. You got to have those folks around you. And that becomes, are we actually going to do this or not? And how many times do companies do that? Especially with leadership seminars and development. How many times have you got this guy that comes in, or a coach comes in, and man, they fire you up for about 3 days. They show you a couple PowerPoints, give you a book, a mug or whatever, and you are fired up. We're going to do this. We're going to make all these changes, and 2 weeks down the road, no one can even remember this guy's name.
Flavor of the month.
That's kind of how it gets, because it's difficult.
Flavor of the month.
That goes back to why it's important to have executive coaching. Someone that's going to be right there by your side the whole time, not someone that's just going to show you PowerPoint, but it's going to be there to help you see these changes. Provide the tools and the path for you to get there, and constantly, remind you or help you get to that next level. Executive coaching isn't easy. Real executive coaching is not easy.
It's tough.
It's not for the timid. It really isn't.
It's tough work. It really is tough work. People don't change. I mean, we can make adjustments, but real profound change happens slowly, It happens over time, and it happens with consistency.
Right.
And that's where that whole aspect of coaching comes in, to help you see it in a different way, help you show you the steps, how to do it, hold you accountable, and realizing there will be dips and there'll be highs and there'll be lows and all sorts of stuff in the meantime. But it's the consistency over time that changes things, that really changes leaders, that really changes the culture. That's exactly right. So let's wrap this up here as we get here. So how do you find out if this person you're working for is going to be one of those people that's open and willing to really dig in and do something? Well, you begin by simple things. You can refer a podcast to them. You can refer to our podcast that we'll be doing. You can refer a blog to them, recommend a book, or engage them in a conversation by asking them just these questions, these kinds of things. How do you feel about this? How do you look at this? If they're not open to those things, it tells you they are unwilling to change. They're unwilling to even entertain the notion of change. You may have to work on them. Maybe they'll start loosening up, melting a little bit. But at some point, if they're just going to be, that's the way, the status quo is the status quo, and that's all there is, it might be time for you to consider some other options here.
Absolutely.
But be one of those people that's brave. I mean, if you think about it, even though you may not be in a formal leadership position, you can be a leader. You can be a leader of change as you open up opportunities for leaders and managers to change their way of thinking and see what they do with it. I mean, whether you stay with that organization or not, you may leave, but you will take that trait of, let's inspire people. Let's think big. Let's think differently. Let's make the pie bigger for everybody. Let's do good things for everybody. That will be to your benefit. So in the meantime, let's see, we got some other things we're going to be doing here. Our next podcast is, what's our next podcast? Rich, tell us about that.
There's a big, one of the questions I get asked quite a bit is a return on investment for executive coaching. There are so much information out there about return on investment for executive coaching. So, and I think that's the next one we're going to talk about is,
I like that. Let's do that.
What's important and what is your return on your investment?
That's exactly, because obviously people are looking at that in terms of being in business. You put money in, you want money coming back out at you. So
right.
Coaching is one of those things that could be a little fuzzy wuzzy here, but we're going to show you that there's real data, real benefits that will accrue to you because you engage in this work.
Absolutely.
All right. Good. Anything else you want us to wrap up with?
If you have any questions for us or you want us to talk about something else in the future, mainlineleadersact@gmail.com. That's mainlineleaderact@gmail.com, or actually we have a website, richbarron.intelligentleadershipec.com, and that'll also give you a path to get a hold of us.
All right. That's it for now. Everybody make it a great day. Thanks so much for joining us. See us next time. Bye-bye.
So once again, thank you for joining us today. If you have a topic you'd like to hear about on a future podcast, or have suggestions or comments or a question, send us an email at mainlineleadersact@gmail.com. That's mainlineleaderact@gmail.com, or go to richbarron.intelligentleadershipec.com. Once again, we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you and take care.